Paul is going to be speaking tonight.
Excuse me, John, Rose, stop talking.
I see you in the beer alone there.
Sip it.
Thank you, John.
Paul's going to be speaking to us tonight about electric vehicles, and his interest in electric vehicles stems from a desire to decrease his personal negative impact on the present climate crisis our planet is experiencing. He graduated from Tufts University in medical school and trained in internal medicine at Harvard in Boston, where he met and married his Rose Marie Bard. After 40 years of practice and teaching medical students, his love of the outdoors and cross-country skiing heavily influenced their decision to retire to Fort Kent, where, as you know, we have some of the best snow and ski trails in the world. He is an active member of the Fort Kent Outdoor Center and serves on the board there. Paul also has an avid interest in permaculture, a sustainable method of agriculture for planetary food security. But most importantly, everyone needs to know that he is Rose Bard's husband. He and Rose own, drive, and love their electric car, and he would like to share their experience with you here tonight.
Thank you.
So, for most of our life, wherever we went, she was always Dr. Kyle's wife. So when we came to Fort Kent, who are you? I'm Rose Bard's husband. Okay, then I know who I am.
I know the feeling.
It's fine. Well, thanks for coming out and letting me talk about electric cars. I have a few disclaimers to make. And first one is that I'm biased with my experience with Tesla, but that doesn't make me a fan of Musk. The Tesla engineers, they simply make the best electric car in the world. I'm convinced of that. And secondly, our planet is in crisis. Our governments and the corporations don't seem to be stepping up to do something to fix that. And so driving electric cars is something I can do personally to decrease that impact. The life of our car, or the Tesla, driving that is going to save approximately 55 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. That's like 110,000 pounds just for one car. And thirdly, as Don pointed out, I spent my life in medicine, and so you're going to have to put up with some health stuff and climate stuff in the electric car talk. And lastly, I really don't expect people to either share or agree with my perspectives. So, I hope that it's enjoyable. How many of you have driven or ridden an electric car?
Do hybrids count?
The what?
Hybrids, okay?
Yeah,
They
that's a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Yeah. Do any of you want to share, what that experience was like and how different it was from an electric car? I mean, from a gas or internal combustion engine car? About the same for you?
Pretty much, but I would go to the gas pump once a month. My students were filling up their trucks every day. And I have plug-in plus hybrid, and so I can come to town. I'm only 2 miles out of town, but I can come into town and back 3 times on 8 kilowatts battery. But now I'm going to hell because I bought a camper van. So.
And your experience with that?
My brother had Tesla 85D, and we would run.
What car is it?
the 85D Tesla is the big one. I drove it back from Marina Del Rey to Hollywood, LA, which was 4 hours. And it was very comfortable. The autopilot did most all the driving. You turn your turn signal on. When it saw an opening, it would go over. It would adjust speed. I thought it was a blast. It's like high tech. It would update when it was at home and plugged in. So
Yeah,
any
over
data-
the air Wi-Fi updates.
Yeah.
And adjustments to the vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
It scheduled your maintenance for you and told you when to be there. So it was a neat experience. Get home, pull it in the garage, plug it in. And no gas stations at all.
Anybody else? Somebody else raised their hands? Yeah.
You let me drive yours.
Yeah.
And it was really remarkable, like, knowing a little bit of physics. It reminded me that you won't have to touch the brakes at all.
The regenerative braking.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And so every time I would relax on the accelerator, it would slow down. And that's because it would change the mode of the motor and the generator are the same thing. Just
I think somebody else raised their hand back there. No? Okay.
I rented a car, it's a hybrid, and it was the quietest thing. I didn't even know when it was on. And then, but I went everywhere without filling up, it was awesome.
Yeah, that was nice. Thank you. Let's see. So this is supposedly the first electric car that was built by Robert Anderson in 1832. And I tried to look into the history of this, and there's not very much, and the description is completely different than this. And these look like they're probably acid batteries. The description that I could find was that it had one wheel, that it would go 4 miles, and that he used an oil battery which generated electricity and was not rechargeable. So, and then I couldn't find out anything about what kind of motor that he used, electric motors, because it was just right in the 1830s that electric motors were, being discovered. There's the Thomas Davenport out of Vermont about the same time, and he had a 3rd grade education, and he was a blacksmith. And he'd gone to a steel mill or something like that and saw them using electricity around 1830. And he came home and started experimenting. And he built the first DC electric motor. And all our electric motors that we use that are DC, your hair dryers, everything are based on that principle. And he tried to get it passed through a patent. And the patent reviewers didn't understand electricity. So his application failed. He built another one. His wife took her wedding dress, her silk wedding dress, and took it apart and used that thread for the insulation for his wiring. And then he got a shop in New York and worked on electric motors there, and had another patent application, and his office burned down. So he had such a tough time, and he ended up dying. His son said that he died of a broken heart. But his electric motor lived on, and we use it. And if he had gotten the patent on that, he would have been wealthier than Rockefeller. And it was about 60 years later that the first production vehicle was made by Henry Morris and Pedro Salom. And they ended up having a 6-passenger vehicle, and they ended up making some ambulances. And so that was the Electrovac automobile in the U.S. Electric Vehicle Company came in 1897, and they made cabs for New York City. The horses had a lot of trouble with ice and snow on the streets, and really couldn't deliver passengers. But in 1901, they were investigated for securing a fraudulent loan and went bankrupt. Then in 1908, Henry Ford designed the Model A internal combustion engine. They had to crank those cars. And then in 1912, electric starter was made. And by that time that he invented the Model T and started the assembly line, 30% of the cars on the road were electric. I don't think a lot of people know that. The batteries, though, some of them weighed 1,200 pounds, and they had cleared out an ice rink in Broadway in New York City, and they would change the batteries out. It would give them about 4 hours of use for the cabs. When Henry Ford made the Model T in the assembly line, an electric vehicle cost right around $1,800 then, and he was able to sell his car for $750. And gasoline was cheap, pennies, on the gallon, and then also our local and federal governments failed to build any kind of infrastructure for electric vehicles, and electric vehicles basically died. That's the Model T, Henry Ford. But his wife always drove an electric car. He bought her a new one every other year. Because she thought that electric internal combustion engine was smelly and loud, and she really liked her electric car. And this is one of the first commercial production hybrid cars. In 1917, the Woods dual power, and they had an internal combustion engine in front and the electric engine behind it. It was a nice looking car. And then it wasn't until 2001 that Toyota made the Prius, and they were successful with that. The gas mileage has been rated around, I think, 42 city and 41 miles per gallon. Around that same time, GM had a fleet of electric cars, the EV1s, and they had them all leased. They didn't sell any, and they developed the Hummer and some SUVs, and they called all of them back in and crushed them so they could sell the Hummers and SUVs. In 2008, Elon Musk made the Roadster, and it was the first electric vehicle that used lithium batteries. It had a range of over 200 miles. You could make 244 miles. And he made about 2,500 of those cars. And it received a lot of awards, won a lot of races. And he ended up sending one. I was thinking of this when Ben gave his lecture about Mars. He sent one of his Roadsters with an astronaut in it, and it's out past Mars now in an orbit around our sun. So, Nissan launched the Leaf, which was an all-electric zero tailpipe emission car in 2013. And at this time, the entire developing world is transitioning from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles in an effort to decrease our use of fossil fuel and carbon emissions. The global temperature of the Earth is increasing. Our CO2 levels are increasing towards 400 parts per million. And scientists have linked those two events. This is a comparison of the CO2 emissions of different vehicles and fuel types. If we had a battery electric vehicle that was totally recharged with coal-generated electricity, it would actually have more emissions than internal combustion engine for its lifetime. But with renewable electricity, the CO2 emissions from the production and distribution, disposal, just equals the production and disposal of other conventional vehicles. And that's important where you live too, because as we know, a lot of the underdeveloped countries are still using coal. And looking at efficiencies, an electric vehicle, in general, they have a 74% from well to wheel efficiency, as opposed to the internal combustion vehicle that uses fossil fuels. Its well to wheel efficiency is only 13%. The switching to electric vehicles, the typical passenger car now has 24.2 miles per gallon, and electric vehicles average 115 miles per gallon efficiency. Our Tesla Model Y, we get about 128 miles per gallon efficiency rating. And then they looked at light trucks and vans and Class 8 trucks. Any comments or questions about that?
So how did you come up with a miles per gallon?
They
Gallons of what? I'm sorry.
equivalents
Okay.
in energy produced.
BTU. I have questions about the CO2 that you had. So if I understand this, let's assume that in Maine, for example, the majority of the electricity that's being generated is from hydropower.
We're going to talk about that. I have slides
Are you okay?
that show what percentage of our electricity comes from where.
Because some of us really are driven, if you will, by our interest in diminishing CO2 emissions.
Correct.
If the cost of production of the electrons to supply the EVs is equal to or greater than conventional sources, what have we gained, I guess?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's one of the electric vehicle myths that's out there, that we're spending more and producing more CO2 emissions producing electricity than if we were driving a fossil fuel car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a myth.
That's a
Okay,
myth.
good to know.
So 99% of the population is now breathing unhealthy air. They attribute almost 7 million deaths a year in the world globally to air pollution. And it's estimated that the global cost of health damages secondary to air pollution is $8.1 trillion globally. Governments have pledged to end the fossil fuel subsidies, but since 2020, they're subsidizing our fossil fuel companies by $1.3 trillion. This last September was the hottest September on record. And then in October, we hit the 1.5C, which is one of the warning points for our planet. And last week, we hit the 2 degree C warming of the surface of the Earth twice. And scientists say that if we have a sustained 2 degree C warming of the surface of the Earth, it'll be irreversible, the changes that occur, because it'll melt the permafrost and The adverse impacts from our climate change that are felt to be human-caused are affecting our water, food, health and well-being, infrastructure, cities, biodiversity, and ecosystems. And the health component of it is being attributed to particulate matter in pollution. And specifically the PM 2.5 or 2.5 micrometers. This is just a caricature of how small that is. That's our human hair. And the blue beads are the 10 micrometer particles, whereas the red ones that you can hardly see on it are the PM 2.5s. And this is a scanning electron microscope of PM 10s and 2.5s. The health effects of particulate matter, especially the particles that are smaller than 10 micrometers, are attributed to causing premature death in people who have heart and lung disease already, non-fatal heart attacks, irregular heartbeat or arrhythmias, aggravating asthma, decreased lung function, and increasing respiratory problems with inflammation and bronchitis and breathing problems.
I have a question.
Yep.
When you said irregular heartbeat, so over the past, how many years, we've seen increase of the irregular heartbeat, atrial fibrillation?
Yes.
Is there any correlation with that and this?
I have not seen any articles that specifically relate AFib to PM 2.5s. But what happens is that, and I'll show you in another slide, and this is the medical part that I'm going to bore you with, but how the PM 2.5s affect endothelial function and can inflame the heart and its arteries and blood vessels. This is just some of the emission sources of ozone and PM 2.5s, industrial, automobiles, forestry, forest fires that we've had a lot of, and agriculture. And this is kind of a complicated slide, but it explains what happens with the 2.5 particulate matters. We get it absorbed. It causes oxidative damage at the cellular level and produces low-grade chronic inflammation. It can actually then be absorbed into your bloodstream, and they attach to your DNA molecules. It can cause gene mutations, and it silences the tumor suppressant genes that we have that usually help eradicate abnormal cells that go on to produce tumors, cancer. And those mutations cause those transcriptomic changes where when you're doing transcription with the RNA from the DNA and making proteins, it also inhibits normal cell death. So that you end up having cells that don't die, and they end up becoming initiated and then make a pre-neoplastic lesion and end up with malignant tumors. And
Excuse me. On the previous slide, you had ozone.
Yeah.
Years ago, we used to talk about the ozone layer being a hole in the ozone, but we don't hear about that anymore. Is that because
there's actually been having some repair of the ozone hole that
all right?
I know, but I don't know how much.
They've changed their refrigeration fluids.
CFCs?
From Freon and chlorinated hydrocarbons that were damaging it. Yeah.
That was the biggest.
A big source. Yeah.
The new fluids are not as bad on the ozone.
Yeah. And recently, multiple articles have been published in numerous countries that are associating air pollution specifically ozone, nitrous oxides, nitrogen dioxide, and PM 2.5s with dementia. The PM 2.5s have the greatest effect producing dementia that they're able to parse out scientifically. And what happens is that this inflammation initiates microglial cells in the brain, some of your neurons in the brain, and ends up producing amyloid beta proteins, which are the tau proteins that are associated with Alzheimer's. And I found this slide interesting because it showed that Maine, in this slide with dementia, has above the normal standard level of dementia.
The green is above?
No, the red is above.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the question bears asking.
Pardon?
The question bears asking, what is contributing, in the opinion of science, we know, to this?
They associate this directly with PM 2.5. Generally, we have a clear air, but as I'll show a little later, we do a lot of wood burning, and we have a lot of mass burning, like the hospital heats itself with wood chips, and there's a lot of PM 2.5s produced by wood burning. And oil burning, because most of us use oil to heat our houses in Maine. So then you're done with the medical part. So what is a battery-powered electric vehicle? It's fully electric charged. It's driven by a battery pack. It doesn't use any fossil fuels. It doesn't have to have oil or oil changes. It may have 1 to 4 motors. You don't need a starter or carburetor. It doesn't have to have a transmission since the motor is direct drive. And that increases the torque incredibly. The first week that I got my car, I went up and I visited Joanne's husband, Charlie, and then we took him for a ride. He goes, "Hey, Kyle," he said, "did you ever punch it?" I said, no, I haven't. I punched it.
Does the amperage go up in speed?
Pardon?
Does the amperage draw go up in speed?
Yes. Yep.
So why not use gears as a means of getting more RPM?
They don't need them, and it would just cause loss of energy to have gears. As I'll show you in the next slide why there isn't any energy loss there. But anyway, that car shot off so fast, it was like being shot out of a rocket. And I stopped the car, I had to get out, and I was afraid to get back in for a little while.
But Charlie wasn't.
No.
Did he have a seatbelt on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got almost 500 horsepower, and it's direct drive. And it didn't burn the rubber or anything, it just took off. It weighs about 4,400 pounds, and it's excellent traction. So I went in and I changed the computer to chill. Now it won't go over 85 miles an hour, and it won't shoot out, but in addition, for your question, we were coming back from Presque Isle the other day, and I had to pass the car, so I pushed it a little bit. It has a lot of energy, a lot of speed. But you could see it go down a certain percent. I'd lose like 1 or 2% with using that energy. Yeah.
I don't know if this might help, but the reason we have transmissions in gas-powered cars is that the gas engines, when it goes at slow speeds, stalls. Okay, so because that's 4 cycles in it, and only one of them is a power stage. So the other 3 cycles are coasting. Okay? And if you slow that down too much, it stalls. So that's why they need gears. But if you take an engine like a steam engine, no transmission is needed. Okay? I don't know if you ever noticed an old-fashioned locomotive. There's just this little box on the side that drives these big wheels that pulls about 100 cars. Okay, that's because the steam is a continuous push, and then they reverse it. Okay, and electric motors are the same way. You can go from stop, and as soon as the current starts going around and creates a magnetic field, it works on another current going the opposite way. It's the magnetism, and it torques at slow speed just as well as high speeds. So no transmission is needed.
And there it is, just like you said. So the stator and the rotor, there's no friction. It's just in the field. And this is directly connected to the axle. And they just, all they have to do is, all you have is drive, neutral, and reverse.
So the only friction then would be the axle and the tire.
And a tire on the ground, yeah.
Does the Tesla have generation on the wheels? Like I know the hybrid Prius has some generation on the wheels when you're braking and such.
So the generation actually comes out of the motor. It turns into a generator when you're going downhill.
Okay.
And on the screen you can see it turn from black to green.
Right.
And whenever it's green, you're recharging your battery. So if you're going downhill, you're doing regenerative charging.
So it's not a generator on the wheel, it's actually the wheel.
It's actually the motor.
Motor, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Does NASCAR get involved in electric vehicles?
They lose.
You never hear of it. I don't follow
They
NASCAR.
can't compete. They can't go as fast, as rapidly. Yeah, they don't have the torque. I don't think there's an internal combustion engine that can beat some of the fast production cars, electric cars. You'll get to see some pictures of those. But that's a good question. Because when Elon Musk made his Roadster, he took it to Italy and he won a bunch of races, took it to Australia, and I don't think that they've really allowed them to participate anymore. This is one of the Tesla chassis. Rosemary, I took this picture last April in San Francisco at the showroom. And this is the electric motor, the front motor, and there's a rear motor. You can pick that up and carry it, They're all made out of white materials. The Tesla engineers, they were using some rare earth metals in their electric motors, and they've eliminated those. So they're not using cobalt and some of the mining issues that people complain about.
I was just going to ask, thank you, because one of the criticisms that forces
Child
countries-
labor
Yeah.
in third world countries, yeah.
Just so we can drive EVs.
So they're trying to eliminate all the rare earth metals that they can in their vehicles, and there's no longer any rare earth metals used in a Tesla motor.
Kyle, what about lithium in the batteries?
We'll talk about that. Yeah, that's a really good question. So this is the side view. This is the battery pack right here. And what it is, it's a whole bunch of small cells, lithium-ion cells. And lithium mining in itself for spodumene and the materials that you need to make lithium is not really sustainable. My son's high school friend, however, lives in San Francisco, not too far from my son. And he has developed a sustainable method for lithium production for the first time. And he can get it out of brine, seawater, with the lithium-rich brines. They're in Argentina, highly concentrated. And this year they produced their first 98% pure lithium. And in 2 years they expect to be up and running with sustainable lithium production, where they're going to be able to just take the water out of the wells, process it, and put it back in with no hard rock mine. This company's called Lilac. It's David Snydacker, brilliant kid.
Well, they come up with a good system for recycling lithium batteries.
They have. That's another big issue, you know. And Norway's ahead of the world on that, and they have some excellent lithium recycling companies, and they're becoming more and more, so that once the lithium has been mined or processed or produced, that it can be reused. This is an example of the automotive group's sales share globally across the earth. China has 21.10% for the first quarter in 2023. BYD company, they have a whole fleet of different types of cars that range from $7,000 to $36,000, $40,000, and really small cars to medium-sized sedans. And they're very successful with that. Tesla globally has 16% of the market share for car sales. And then you can see that VW and the rest have a very small share. Production is really hard for these things, and the VW and Ford and GM are really struggling to get their manufacturing up to get these cars out. This is some of the ranking. The Model Y is number one in the world now. The Model 3 is second. Model 3 is the same chassis as the Model Y, but it's a smaller car. The Model Y can have up to 7 passengers. You have an outfit for that. And the Model 3 is a lot smaller.
Who sells lithium, or who sells Tesla?
Who sells?
Service is obviously something that,
Yeah, they have no they do have service or sales rooms, but that's limited. There's at least 6 states that have banned Tesla from having a showroom in their state.
Really? No, I know that.
Why?
Politics?
Because they wouldn't be able to compete.
Oil-producing states.
Yep.
they banned them?
Yeah, they banned them from selling, even though they have the Gigafactory in Texas. They can't have a showroom in Texas. They can't sell Teslas in Texas. And they're pouring millions of dollars into that state. I think Montana is one, and Alabama or Arkansas. There's about at least 6 states that you cannot sell a Tesla.
Is there a showroom?
My closest service center is Quebec.
Is there not a dealership and service available in Maine because the economy won't support it?
You mean for Tesla?
Yeah.
No. They have a service center, I think, in Portland. Yeah. But that's further than Quebec for me.
Yeah.
No, I have. Like my VW that I have to take it to Bangor for service. It's closer for me to go to Quebec. We had a woman hit our car in the parking lot a few weeks ago, last month, and it has Sentry mode, so it has cameras all over it. So it recorded the event, and then she didn't realize she'd done damage, and she drove away. So I was able to look in there and see, because it says Century Event, you know, and so I was able to get my car. I tried to get it. I went down to Valley Auto to see if they could fix it, and he goes, "We can't touch that car." She'll avoid your warranty. It might kill my men, you know, and we're not authorized. So I called Quebec, and they called me back and they said, "Oh, Quebec's too far for you." So just go to Temiscouata. We have a really excellent guy there. It's 50 miles from your house.
Oh, wow.
And they fixed it. And her insurance company paid for it because I sent them the video.
You were able to reach her through the footage that was...
Oh, yeah, I took a picture of her, getting in her car, her license plate, everything,
my
showed the event, and then when she hit us, the light flashed, you know, and it's, you know, it's really, otherwise we would have never known.
Oh, will you be getting into this whole notion of damaged EVs and the sheer cost of repair and all of that?
Yes,
Okay.
briefly. Yeah. But not in the damage issue. If they total an EV, it's done, you know. And if somebody repairs that themselves, then they're not able to charge at a Tesla supercharger if that car's been totaled.
I was just thinking, you know, midwinter, Route 11, snowing conditions. We never see that, but in the event that it would happen, and you're driving a Tesla, and something unfortunate happens, drive off the road and hit a tree.
Hopefully, yeah.
That would cost you a few bucks.
It would. I will say, though, that our Tesla has some of the best traction and self-righting
Computer-aided system.
computer-aided driving. That if we start suffering on ice or anything like that, that it just corrects itself. And if you're using auto drive, we'll get into that later. Auto drive, you know, keeps it in the lane.
We also have spent tires.
Yeah, oh, the stem tires, yeah. With 4,400 pounds on it, you take your time and you're not going to slide off the road. Hopefully never. So this is global market share. Electric cars were a little over 20% in the world. Petrol, 44%, and hybrids, almost 30% sales.
I'm sorry, which colors or which?
Okay, so this is the pure electric. I'm sorry about this quality slide. Yeah, that's electric. This is diesel, 5%. Petrol, fossil fuel, and it shows just the different companies, and then the hybrids. In the United States, Tesla sells the most cars for electric cars.
Yeah.
They sold over 325,000 in just the first 6 months of 2023, compared to Chevy, Ford, Hyundai, and then down. The Rivian was having a lot of problems with their truck. The wheels were falling off, and they had to call it back. In addition, I remember when they were advertising the Rivian, so that it had all four wheels would steer. When people got their car, only the front wheels. And that was going to cost them, I don't know, $10,000 or $15,000 more to get the one with all four wheels returned. The Tesla Model Y was Europe's best-selling car in the first 8 months of 2023. The Model 3 looks the same, it's just smaller. That's their new midnight cherry red color that comes out of Berlin. I don't know if we have it in the US yet. And then the cost of electric vehicle, what are the costs? Those have been impacted by the Inflation Reduction Act. When we bought our car, we bought it before the IRA was signed into effect, because we got it in December. A lot of people were waiting for January so they get that $7,500 rebate. And we'd already waited 8 months. And so when delivery came, we said, we'll take it. And Tesla wrote us a $7,500 check.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't even ask them. They gave me a coupon for a wall charger and 10,000 free miles of supercharging to go on with the vehicle. They were so happy to sell the vehicle. So they have tax credits for light-duty trucks, used EVs, commercial EVs, charging equipment, and they're trying to electrify the United States Postal Service fleet, and they have tax credits for clean, heavy-duty vehicles. In Maine, this is an example for me, if you were to buy a car, an electric car, depending on your income, if you're low income and you buy a $40,000 EV, you get efficiency Maine rebate of $7,500, and you get the federal tax credit of $7,500, and that brings the net cost down to $25,000. And then any income, you get $8,500.
So it's $40,000? True price for Tesla?
Yeah.
Good.
That's a price for a Tesla. The Model 3 is $41,000. And they're talking about building a $25,000 Tesla. And they bought land in Mexico for it, and they're getting ready to build the plant. But they held off for economic reasons, and I don't know when they're going to build that.
Well, I'm the one asking dumb questions.
No, it's not. There's no doubt.
Is it a front, a rear, or all-wheel drive vehicle? Or?
They're looking at the total cost of the electric vehicle. It doesn't matter.
But what's on the road right now for EVs?
So my EV is all-wheel drive. It has dual motors, so it has a motor. As I showed you, that chassis, motor in the front, motor in the back.
So it's all-wheel drive.
And all the wheels are drive.
Yeah.
And each of them are computer operated. The Tesla Model 3 has a rear wheel drive. Yeah. And that one goes for right around 40 in California, before the efficiency rebates and federal rebates. Did that answer the question?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are all wheels synchronized then?
Yes.
Well, what determines the income? You said low income is $40,000?
Your taxable income. And I don't know
But
what
low income is 40, and then moderate income, it's the same number.
No, that's not the...
No, this is the cost of the car.
Oh, okay.
You get the federal tax credit for an electric vehicle up to $80,000. If the vehicle costs more than $80,000, it's considered a luxury vehicle, and they're not going to give you the tax credit for it. This is my charging stats, our charging stats for the year. I paid $336 for driving almost 10,000 miles in a Tesla. My only maintenance has been putting some windshield washer fluid.
What was the $336 for gas?
No, that's for electricity.
Electricity?
For our car, yeah. The gas equivalent. Let me explain this too, because I got 10,000 free miles. 40% of my driving has been free in the red.
For your credits.
Through my credits.
For your tax credit?
No, because I bought it before the signing into law of the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
Tesla handed me 10,000 free miles.
Oh, you mentioned that, okay.
So that I calculated we would have probably spent $700 for the year for electricity.
And how many miles?
Almost 10,000.
What
No,
does,
how many miles did you drive?
Almost 10,000 miles.
10,000 miles.
Because they gave you 10,000 free miles.
Yeah, but I only used 40% of that, or 4,000. I've only done 4,000 miles.
Okay, so you paid for,
I haven't
that
paid.
$336
It's from my home
is for 4,000 miles.
for 6,000.
For six, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
57%.
Yeah.
what is the cost to put a charger in your home?
That's a good question. It depends on the type of charger. You can get a, what they call an NACS adapter for $25 and plug it into your 240. Yep. Or you can, and I'll show you later, I have a picture of what the charger looks like, and those run around $400 or $500. They gave me one of those because I bought the car. It was really nice of them.
Now, how much do you pay when you're traveling and you stop at these rest areas or whatever?
Nothing. It's free for me because until I use up my 10,000 miles.
Right.
But otherwise, it's 41 cents per kilowatt hour. And I'll show you here. At home, I pay 16 cents per kilowatt hour. So at the supercharger, it's 41 right now.
And in town, we have a couple places, right? The town office.
The town office, but the town office has chains on it that's locked. So when I went in and asked them about, why you have your electric chargers locked up, well, you have to pay for that. And then the hospital has electric charger that you can charge at.
And I think that's free, right?
That's, yeah. As long as, if you're at the hospital.
Right,
and
right.
need it. I saw one Tesla there, a white Tesla once.
Yeah, we have a couple physicians from downstate, and they own, and when they come up, they drive in,
Plug it in?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. But they travel from the Portland area up.
Yeah, we'll talk about where all the superchargers are and everything like that. And, so my gas equivalent would have been almost $1,700. I saved, $1,300 using electricity. Yes.
How do you pay road use taxes, or do you not have to?
I paid a lot of money for my registration. Yeah. So I feel like I paid my fair share.
You're talking excise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
How much more did it cost?
Huh?
How much more was it to register your car compared to the?
Somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000.
Wow.
But if you buy a brand new vehicle,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You're gonna pay that in excise.
Yes, you are.
That was no different than if I bought,
But I feel like I'm paying my taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those.
There's no surcharge for the fact that you're not buying gas.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm sure that'll come.
Yeah.
I got a survey being a hybrid owner, and it's been a debate now for at least 3 years. If you remember, previous governor, thank you, Governor LePage wanted to put some taxes on hybrids. So I have written a couple of times, Troy Jackson and some of the others, and the current governor, I got a survey on what I'd be willing to pay, and I was being adamant about, I don't mind paying my fair share, but I don't think that EV and hybrid owners should be paying more than other people are. And I said, if there was some way that we could just go by mileage, and everybody paid by mileage, that would be ideal. But of course, how do you document that? So it's a current debate, and the legislature's looking into it, and I think hopefully in a year or two, maybe we'll have some resolution of that, but I'm pretty sure that hybrid and EV owners are going to be paying
Well, I think we are.
additional.
California solar panel owners pay an
Yeah.
extra tax. Yeah. Because they have solar panels, they have to pay a penalty tax. Because they're not using the electric company.
Do you charge at home with solar?
No, we live in Fort Kent. And my house is full of snow all the time, so.
I guess one of our daughters is adamant that electric vehicles are exorbitantly more expensive than regular vehicles, and she wouldn't be able to afford one.
Well, I showed you what happens there, and I'll show you later on what vehicles cost. There are some exorbitantly priced electric vehicles.
Well, I can go out and buy a gas-powered vehicle that's exorbitantly priced. So it doesn't matter whether I get an electric vehicle or I don't.
That's right.
I mean, it's just,
So the purchase price is not really the determinant, it's the additional fees, costs that you're being imposed on by various governments? Is that the deterrent? Is that the...
No, it's the fear, the uncertainty, the doubt. Everybody I talk to, they go, I don't think I'd buy an electric vehicle. I'd have to have a hybrid, because I don't want to be without gas.
I'm up here where they're made.
Yeah.
Well, is it wrong to think that?
Well,
In a way, not.
well, here's living proof.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what your vehicle duty is doing. For instance, there's not a decent truck out there that you can buy, electric truck, that's going to give you the range that you need. You go up in the North Main woods, and if you're pulling a trailer with a F-150 Lightning, you have 140 miles of range. Let's say it's below zero, and you lose 40% of that, because I lose 40% of my battery below zero. At 20, I lose around, or below 20 degrees, I lose 25%.
You're SOL, yeah.
So, your truck's useless.
When it's got bad, you have to keep a generator, 5 gallons of gas in it.
Yeah.
Run your EV with a generator. Oh, I like that.
How do they heat?
There's some people who tried that.
How do you drive them in cold weather and heat? What's the effect of that on?
40 below zero.
So, below zero, I lose approximately 40% of my range. My range for my vehicle is 330 miles, so I'll lose 40% of that. But we have enough superchargers everywhere, and I don't go up in the North Main woods with it. If I poke a hole in that battery case, it's on me. I have to buy a new one. But we have a supercharger in St. Leonard. It's 30 miles from here. We have a supercharger in Midway, Bangor, Augusta, Portland, Freeport, Boston, all.
If you leave your house and go to the grocery store, what's the drain on the battery to produce heat to make your...
Oh, let's see. We'll get into that with camp mode. Let's say if you were stalled and how much energy would your car use? Yeah. You do lose, I would say 3 to 4% heating the car up, conditioning the battery. It depends on if you're going to heat your steering wheel and heat all your seats, and which we do. I mean, it's nice because we can turn the car on before we get in the cold, and all I have to do is click that button, and then it'll start heating the car.
and you don't have to wait for the engine to warm up.
No?
It starts heating right off.
Yeah.
And then when you step on the gas, it goes, because you burnt your gas.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Oh, you use the word supercharger. What does that all mean?
We'll go into that. I have, yeah. So this is still in the section of cost of electric vehicles. This one costs $250,000. This last year, it became the fastest production vehicle in the world.
Below 2 seconds.
0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds.
Oh, my goodness.
It has 1,200 horsepower, but you pay $250,000 for it.
I'm sure they have an easy payment plan.
Oh.
Well, why you get like 50% off?
There you go.
It's a beautiful car. It also has the longest range of any electric vehicle in the world. It's 500 miles. Yeah. Until Cybertruck comes off the production line next month, it's going to have 500 miles. See a picture of that.
The excise tax on that must be something else.
This one, yeah.
Yeah.
This was the fastest production car in the world until the Lucid Air came. And last year, it was the fastest production car. They have a top speed of 200 miles per hour. 0 to 60 time is also 1.99 seconds, but the Lucid Air beats it by, I don't know, a fraction, a hundredth of a second or something. And it has over 1,000 horsepower, but it's less than half the price you can get for 100,000.
It's not too bad.
Does it have heat
Go
pumps in
that
it?
fast?
Pardon?
Who needs to go that fast?
Who needs to?
Yeah.
Not me.
Charlie, apparently.
If you're not heating, how is the air conditioning in the car like that?
Beautiful.
And what's the principle?
They have a heat pump.
Basically, it's a heat pump in the vehicle.
Yes.
Is it low voltage?
Yes. I think they're 24 volts.
Yeah.
200 miles an hour, I think Bangor and,
Pardon?
if I go from Holton to Bangor, 100 miles an hour, 100 miles, that means in 30 minutes I could be in Bangor.
You could,
If you don't get stopped.
if you don't leave the road in the air.
I like that.
And our battery, if we take good care of it, it's warranted for, I think, 110,000 miles. If anything goes wrong with it, if we lose efficiency and we start losing range with the car, then they'll replace that. But if I take care of it, at home I charge it to 80% and usually don't take it below 20%. So I stay between 20 and 80% charge. They say that I'll be able to get 450,000 miles out of my battery.
Wow. And it's one battery?
But the battery pack
Okay.
that's in the car, I'll be dead by then.
You're actually sitting on a battery, right?
Yes. Yep. And they have a 1,000,000-mile battery that they're making. This year, in June, they got the Tesla Model 3 in California for $23,000 and $22,830. Yeah. They have a Clean Air Act incentive of $9,000 and electric car incentive and the federal incentive. And you end up saving $18,000 on the car. So it brings the Model 3 rear-wheel drive down to $23,000.
Where does this tax credit, who's paying that?
The federal government.
And who pays the federal government?
We do. You do.
Yeah.
But it's part of the Inflation Reduction Act, where I don't know, remember how many trillions you put into that? Was it, what, $3 trillion, something like that? That to rebuild our bridges and roads and our electrical infrastructure. And then EV maintenance. Consumer Reports takes surveys for their customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, and they took thousands of customers who had plug-in hybrid vehicles and battery electric vehicles and found out that those people across the United States are paying half as much as internal combustion engine owners for the maintenance of their vehicles. That kind of feeds to your question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listening carefully.
And that's out of Consumer Reports.
Which begs another question. Social media is probably the worst place you'd ever want to get empirical, reliable, factual information about how to make decisions. And so
How to make
decisions. How
Oh,
to make a
yes.
decision whether we go EV, whatever the hybrid. Is there, based on your research, is there a repository of information somewhere that keeps getting updated with the kind of data that you would need in order to reach a well-informed decision conclusion?
So Electric, E-L-E-T-R-E-K, is a company that does a lot of surveys, and has a lot of articles, review vehicles.
Not just in terms of maintenance, Paul, but just
Yeah,
should
about
we or should
all
we
kinds
not
of
go
things for
EV?
the cars. What's the range? And we're going to show some of those things.
Okay.
And there are a lot of companies who are doing good research on those that are not in social media or in the New York Times or Bangor Daily News. This leads us into our electric vehicle myths. Yes.
You pull into one of those charging stations, how long do you sit there while it's recharging?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It depends on how many miles you got, what your car is, which electric charging station it is, and what level of charger that you're using. Good question. So electric vehicle myths, there's basically the 7 main myths that people worry about. And myth number 1 is that electric vehicles are worse for the environment than gasoline cars because of power plant emissions. We were talking about that. And Maine, I looked at Maine, what our electricity generation is by source. We hardly use any petroleum-fired electric generating capacity and almost no coal-fired. The other is natural gas-fired, hydroelectric, and non-hydroelectric renewables. This spoke to me in the fact of the PM 2.5s is that 3/5 of Maine's household use fuel oil as their primary energy source for home heating, a larger share than any other state in the United States. We're cold. Yeah. And the heat pumps don't work that well, under zero, but they really help. We like our heat pump. In 2021, and it's a little outdated, if I couldn't find any more recent information, 72% of Maine's electricity net generation came from renewable energy. And I think it's probably a lot more now with all the development of the solar institutions that are going on because of the investment, because of the tax credits that they get in Maine for building solar. The commercial companies can sign us on, and then they get the tax credit, we don't. So there are a lot of investors pouring a lot of money into solar panels. 27% of the share of electric power in Maine is hydroelectric power. We ranked 5th in the nation in the share of total in-state electricity by wind energy, and wind gave us 23% of in-state net generation.
These are state figures, but I think in Aroostook County, because of the power grid, I would predict that I'd say as much as 75% is hydro, because all of those electrons are coming from Canada.
They're coming from Canada.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And you're right.
yeah.
This is statewide.
Yeah,
data. But you're right. Because most of our power is coming out of Canada.
Yeah.
Myth number 2 is that EVs are worse for the climate because of battery production. Compared to internal combustion engines and fossil fuels, The gas, oil, and coal industry extracted 15 billion metric tons in 2019. And for a low-carbon economy energy production, mining was only 7 million tons comparatively. Argonne National Laboratory looked at emissions and life cycle greenhouse gases for electric vehicles and the gasoline car. This is the gas car. I'm sorry the print is so small. And this is the electric vehicle with a 300-mile range. The battery didn't accrue to the internal combustion engine. The manufacturing end of life for an ICE car was 9% versus 17% for an EV. Feedstock and fuel was 65%, and the battery production was 18% for the electric vehicle. But the greenhouse gases after the car is driving and using fossil fuels produce 74% of the greenhouse gases. Myth number 3 is that the increase in electric vehicles entering the market will collapse the power grid. The bipartisan infrastructure law provided $10.5 billion for 3 programs that makes up the GRIP program to strengthen our electrical system and electric generating. And myth number 4, there's nowhere to charge. And even though they put billions of dollars into the GRIP program, they really haven't been able to set up enough chargers for non-Tesla vehicles in the United States. And I'll show you a map of that a little later. The United States, depending on the level of charger that you have, this was June of 2019. I think we're probably approaching around 20,000 Tesla superchargers in the U.S. now. That's the level, that's the superchargers. And then 126,500 level 2 and 20,000 level 3 charging ports. This is the Electrify America that was supported by the government. There's a lot of open spaces there where people can't drive. The Electrify America chargers, a lot of them fail, and people have found them unreliable. I was charging at Kennebunkport one day, and there was a fellow there with the new Mercedes EV, really expensive one, and he was almost crying. He works for Mercedes, so they gave him the car. He was running at 38 amps trying to charge the car, and it was going to take him an hour and a half to get it charged, and he didn't know if he's going to have enough charge to get to Boston. You know? So what's happened is that the government has realized their failure, and Ford, GM, Honda, VW, Mercedes, and a number of other car companies have lobbied to accept Tesla NACS charger as the standard. And they're going to change their connector that they have to the Tesla connector. And Tesla's opening up the superchargers to non-Tesla EVs. I don't know if they're going to charge them more.
If you look at those, it just glancing at it, they really follow the interstate system.
They do.
Yeah.
And this is the Tesla superchargers. So
where's the antitrust concept come in? That I get the electricity, I make the car, you buy my plug, and that's it.
well, they put the money out there and they produced the superchargers, And so they're opening it up and they're allowing other people to use it. They don't have to. They do have Electrify America chargers and other types of chargers. Cadillac is making their own chargers, and Mercedes was making their own chargers. And I think that some of these companies are going to continue to make their own chargers. But they just don't have enough.
In Aroostook County, how many Tesla superchargers are there?
I don't know exactly how many, but for me, I know that it's enough. And as I was saying, there's one in St. Leonard. The closest in Canada is Rio de Loup.
Yeah.
And
That's 49 miles.
Yep. And then Medway.
If you're about
Medway has a supercharger system there.
Okay.
A Bangor, Brewer, Augusta, Foxport, a lot of places have them. Yeah. Freeport, yeah. That's where it gets expensive, if I have to charge at Freeport. Why? Because LLB.
Don't you go in there now?
Yeah, you can also go to the Medway Mall.
So you drive a nice vehicle down the road, you run out of gas, you call AAA or it's an equivalent, and somebody brings you. What happens? What happens if you?
You don't call AAA?
So I have AAA,
Okay.
and I'm going to keep it.
Okay.
And I'll have them put my car, if that ever happened,
Yeah.
10,000 miles, I haven't come close. I've never had range anxiety.
Okay.
I've driven in the winter.
Okay.
You know, when you push the button and say navigate to Quebec City, it shows all the Tesla chargers. It tells you exactly where you're going to charge. It tells you what percentage of your battery you're going to have, and it recalculates that depending on the temperature.
Boy, that alone is, that puts an end to spousal arguments when you're driving. That's worth something.
You guys argue?
You have no idea.
Drives us all.
When you're in some of the busy spots, there's people get there and there's 3 lines. There's
Excellent question.
Yeah.
3 people in line.
The first time I ran into that was in Boston. So we drove to Boston, and I said, well, I'll charge on my way out. So I went to the supercharger, 6 cars lined up, Everybody's really respectful. They leave your place in line. And I had to wait 15 minutes. So after that, I always charge outside the city.
How long, I asked the question while we were going to talk about it, but when you say supercharger, how long?
We'll get there.
Thank you. I plug in, how long does it take?
Yeah.
So here's the different levels of charging. I'm sorry again about the size of the slide. We have adapters that we can just plug into 120 volts, but you only get 3 or 5 miles per hour. It takes an hour to give you 5 miles at 120
Oh my
volts.
God, I'd be there all day.
All day.
It's okay if you don't.
The level 2 charger that they show here is 12 to 80 amps. The one I have at home is 50 amps. And it says 10 to 20 miles range per hour, but I'm getting up to 45 miles per hour. So I get home, plug it in, a couple of hours, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, if you're going to be home, it's a big deal. Just plug it in.
Yeah. The level 3 superchargers, again, I really think these are out of date, and because I said 25 cents, per mile. And this was typically 60 amps. We're really dealing in the superchargers a lot higher than this. So they give you 80% charge in 20 to 30 minutes.
So I pull up there, I got 20% charge. I want to get to 80%. In 30 minutes I'm charged.
So it'll give you 20 minutes, yeah. 20 minutes. So Tesla now has over 50,000 superchargers.
Now, if they open that up to everybody, that's going to...
They'll be busy.
Revisit.
but they're going to put more and more, they're putting them out. Hilton just did a deal in September with Tesla. They're installing 20,000 superchargers at 2,000 of their hotels. Honda also adopted the NAC standard. This is my home charger. I had to wire it myself because I couldn't get an electrician. But the electrician came and checked it out and said it was okay.
I'm not sure what I'm looking at there.
This is a home charger for the Tesla, and this is the unit. It's Wi-Fi operated, a Bluetooth too, and it has a cord wrapped around it, and the charging nozzle is right here, and I just unwrap that and bring it over, push the button, it opens the port, and I plug it in. And then that gives me 40 to 45 miles per hour of charging.
So how many miles is yours? Can you go with your, how many miles can you go with your car?
It has a 330 mile range. I would say though that using wipers and heating and air conditioning and things like that, about 300. But I'll show you some of the older figures for that Model Y, and mine's much better.
Before I forget, would you be kind enough to share your PowerPoint presentation with people here that would be interested?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing proprietary.
Nothing proprietary.
Hey, now, if you're on the really low part of your battery,
Yep.
when you plug in, do you get a red light? Or do you just get a green light that is charging?
Oh, this, that little green light on that home charger, yeah. What it does, it just goes,
Oh, okay.
runs down green, yeah, gives you a nice green charging light. And then when it's finished, it turns blue.
You keep talking 80%. Can you get to 100%? Okay.
But I don't do that for my battery. On the road, sometimes I go to 96% if I want to increase my range to where I'm going. Let's say if it's below 0 and I want to increase my range and give myself a little more charge so that I don't have any range anxiety. Yeah.
How accurate is, okay, I'll get 300 miles. How accurate is it? I mean,
I can click on the screen and it shows me the percent. It changes it from percent to miles, if that's helpful. And then it shows me the percent, recalculation of the percent as I'm driving.
It all depends on the conditions, though.
Yeah, depends on the conditions, yeah.
What you're running, what you're
Terrain.
running.
hills and all that? With hills? You're going up hills?
Yep, those are, and I can
You
recharge.
charge 10% just on Susie Hill.
Well, we're going downhill, though.
Oh, that's right.
It's going down now, I get all right.
Does it matter the speed you're traveling?
Yes, yeah. So the tests that we're going to see a little later, we're done at 70 miles per hour.
Shoot.
Do you have outlets in the vehicle, like the power and air compressor for?
The Cybertruck will have its
The
own
truck,
air
like the car
compressor in it
Okay.
that you can just plug in your tool,
What the car doesn't?
but the car doesn't. It has plugs that you could actually put the tire compressor in.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. The regular 12-volt plug out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it has UVC ports, front and back.
Does it have a cigarette lighter?
Do new cars have cigarette lighters?
I don't know.
They have a plug-in.
No,
Did
no.
they throw in the floor mats?
What forgot?
I'm being punchy.
I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to
Does
say,
it have a spare?
one thing that you do frequently is that you'll plug it in at night till it charges overnight, and when it reaches the goal, it's all set. So basically, our car's always charged.
Does it have a spare tire?
Good question. So, it doesn't. So I always carry one when I take a trip away from town. I took the spare out tonight. And I keep a spare because if I lived in the city, I wouldn't have to have one. Because Tesla has service centers, and they'll just run over to you and fix your tire or change it or give you another one. But I don't live in the city. My closest service center is Quebec.
So you carry a jack also then?
Yep, I have jack, lug wrench, all that, air compressor, tire plugs, everything. And the Tesla, because of the battery pack, you can't just put that up on any lift. I have these special little things called pucks. They look like a hockey puck, and they've got a piton in them. And you just pop them up in these holes in the car, and then you put your jack on that, so that you don't damage your battery pack.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who taught you how to use the word piton?
Rosemary.
So speaking of that though, if you have somebody come, they have to tow your car.
You can't tow a Tesla because it'll damage the motor. It has to go on the truck.
I have to go fit all the way on the truck.
So I keep my AAA gold.
Is there a neutral?
Yes.
So you shift it to a neutral and then they just wheel it on the truck? Or?
Correct. You put it in tow mode. It's a little thing on the screen. You go tow mode, and then it has a tow hook that you can screw into the front.
Keyless entry?
Yes. We have a card, but we also have the app on our phone that I can walk to the car and open it. You can require a PIN if you want to start the car for extra security.
What's their theft record?
They always know where the car is. They can shut it down in a second. Everything is always constantly satellite run. The only time that I found that it failed with satellite service, once I was going up Susie Hill and it was in a heavy, heavy, dense fog, and I lost satellite service. So, but that was just brief until I got down out of the fog. And then there's the Mega Charger. And the Mega Charger is going to be able to give you 1,000 watts. And the new Cybertruck is going to be able to be charged with that and give you a 500-mile range in 10 minutes. And Tesla made a semi fleet. They're producing their semis. Peterbilt is making electric semis, and a couple of other truck companies are making them. And they have run this semi with 80,000 pounds on it over the Sierra Nevadas for 500 miles on one charge. So Pepsi bought a fleet of that.
Is this the truck that's driverless also? Didn't Tesla have a
This has a
driverless
full
truck?
self, well, we'll talk about full self-drive. Okay? Yeah. And so the new Cybertruck is going to have a level 4 charger and charge capability in its computer and batteries to take care of that. And that's the Cybertruck. It's a 500-mile range, has a 16-inch height off the ground, full stainless steel, one stamp. It's bulletproof glass, biohazard security system. Our car has biohazard security in case we go through smoke or other polluted areas. We just hit biohazard and it HEPA filters everything. And they're coming off the line next month.
What's that sell for?
Pardon?
What's that sell for?
Oh, so the rear-wheel drive is started at 39.
39.
And the dual wheel starts at 49. And the tri-wheel, I think, is around 70. But I imagine, and I've been hearing and reading that they think that the price is going to be a lot more when it comes off the line.
Well, if you look at the F-150 Lightning, I saw a window sticker, and that's $80,000.
And if you get any additions, it's $96,000 for F-150 Lightning, and its maximum range towing is 140 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had one at the Pelletiers.
That's what I heard.
It
92, it was
belonged to
92
Steve.
92,000.
92,000? No, I didn't go see it. I should have.
I think it's still there.
It probably will stay there for a while.
That's forward.
So this is going to have the new H4 computer in it. It's basically the electric car, the Tesla, is a computer. That's the inside of it. Very clean lines. You don't have dials or anything on your dashboard, just a pad.
You hardly have a steering wheel.
Right.
Oops.
Yeah.
Do they have the new car smell?
Yes, they do.
Give you one of those that costs extra.
Here's an example of the different charger levels, AC and DC. AC is home at 120 and 240. And again, it takes me less than half that time to charge my car to 300 miles. So this is with the Electrify America chargers. And when I was talking to Scott LeClaire at Valley Auto, he said, you know, they're bringing out quantum charging. I hadn't heard of that. Quantum charging, and they have some experimental chargers. It's going to be 200 times speed up of charging. It'll charge all your batteries across it rather than fill up the cells once at a time. And so that to charge for 300 miles would take 3 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's at home. It'd be 90 seconds at the charging station. That's got to come. People say, well, I don't want to have to wait to charge and everything. Well, personally, for me, that's the least I think that I could do. You know, I'm retired too. So.
Well, not just that, but when you stop at a rest area or whatever, by the time you've gone to the bathroom, gotten a coffee to drink or whatever, it's been 30 minutes.
That's it. Yeah, you're right. So we get coffee, pee, come back. Oh, they have a whole bunch of games in there. They have you play all these different kinds of games.
Please tell me they don't have Candy Crush.
I don't know, I've never seen it and I haven't looked. They might.
What is the risk of fire?
We're going to talk about that.
With all these batteries.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Myth number 5 is that EVs don't have enough range to handle the daily travel demands. The present battery-powered vehicle, as we've seen, the range has been from 60 miles to 500 miles. And this is, I'm sorry for this slide. I'm really sorry about this, but the inside EVs, and this is one of those companies that you can look at for the real numbers. This is a 70-mile-an-hour range test. The Lucid Air actually almost met the 500 miles. The Mercedes 2022 EQS made 395. The Porsche Taycan was 305. And I wish that they had a 2023 model Y long range, because this 2020 model only made 276 miles. And then the lowest range was the Mini Cooper.
Mini Cooper.
And if you were below zero and lost 40%, you'd have 60 miles
Well, the Mini
range.
Cooper get to Oakfield.
Pardon?
The Mini Cooper could get to Oakfield.
That wouldn't help it.
Well,
Couldn't charge, there's no charger at Oakfield.
no, that's right, you got it.
Unless you bring an extension cord.
So the BMW would make it to Medway. Yeah. Oh, they could, yeah. I mean, even if he charged full at St. Leonard, he wouldn't make it. Oh, the Ford Lightning 2022 had a range of 270, and that was without pulling anything. Myth number 6, EVs only come as sedans. We've seen a bunch of different trucks and vehicles. In August, we were in Iceland, and there were electric vehicles everywhere. The taxis were electric vehicle. The United States, the percentage of electric vehicles to internal combustion engine vehicles in the United States is 0.7%. Iceland, 11% of the vehicles were all EV. Because their electricity is cheap. It's made by geothermal, volcanic.
Yep.
And every parking lot had chargers. Yeah. The taxis that we took, we had a really nice Audi taxi. And myth number 7, electric vehicles aren't as safe as comparable gasoline vehicles. And this is Electric, that company I was telling you about, that surveys different vehicles and showing how many vehicles have EV fires. The Chevy Volt got a really bad rap because they were catching on fire in parking lots and that.
Yes,
And they're actually going to put it back on the road. They had withdrawn it, and Mary Berry made the decision that they're going to make it with different batteries. So it shows the number of vehicles that were recalled in 2020 because of fires. And the first 4 are gasoline, Hyundai, Kia, Honda, and then the Hyundai, Chevrolet, and Chrysler were recalled. BMW, Mini Cooper, those were recalled because of some battery fires. And none of the Teslas were recalled for battery fires. So overall, electric vehicle fires are much rarer than gasoline engine. Safety ratings and features. The Tesla Model Y is been by the National Highway Transportation Safety Association and the International Insurance Highway Safety Association as the safest vehicle in the world. There are airbags everywhere in the car. They're in the seat, they surround you, they're in the headliners, they're in the front steering wheel. Last year we were in San Francisco and a guy ran his family with his Tesla Y over Devil's Cliff. It's 250 feet onto the rocks of the ocean. They all walked away.
God.
This is our first accident over that cliff that people walked away on. Wow. And safety in terms of driving using autopilot technology. Tesla's working on full self-drive that has not been finished or completed, but there are tens and tens of thousands of people driving Tesla vehicles with full self-drive, and they're able to drive to and from work and home without any interventions at all. You can take your hands completely off the wheel. And it can drive without lines on the road. It can go through construction areas and deal with a lot of the edge cases that you run into of people walking out in front of a car or animals, things like that. The auto drive, as you mentioned, that's a dream.
Every now and then it'll pop up on the screen and says, adjust steering wheel.
So
Make sure you're awake.
make sure you're awake. We have a little camera now in the 2023 that's looking at me to see whether or not I am awake. And it says, please nudge the wheel to the right, so you nudge it a little bit. First you'll get the visual text warning, and then the blue light will start flashing at the top. And then after that you get an audible warning.
And you get a recording of your mother-in-law.
I had a nice mother-in-law. And if you do that 3 times and fail to keep your hands on the wheel for the auto drive, then it'll shut it off for that trip. So the other safety feature about the auto drive is that if I'm driving and go unconscious, in auto drive, it stays in the lane. It has lane assistance. And it's pretty amazing. I took it on Slabrook Road one day and let it go full speed. And at the end of the curves, I was going, because it's, I really treat the car as if it's a toddler, and it has to be constantly watched. When I'm driving auto drive, I'm hyper alert. It's a little more stressful for me for that way, but I don't trust it 100%. I give it about 90. And I won't drive it. You're not supposed to use auto drive in the city. And I won't use it in really, really heavy traffic. Because I was in really heavy traffic at 60 miles an hour with auto drive once, and it got cut me off. And the car stopped. Boom. And I don't know how the guy behind me didn't just come right up into the car. Because in my mind, I just was, I would have driven around it. And you can take over any time, but it all happened too fast. The car just stopped at 60 miles an hour. Wow, screeching or anything, just. So I won't ever do that again.
Does it apply brake lights in a situation like that?
Oh, yes. Anytime that you are using regenerative braking or slowing down, or you adjust your speed down, the brake light comes on. You can see that because you have a car icon on your screen that shows your car from the top. Now when you're parking, it gives you like a drone view where the cars are, where you are. So it shows you how many inches you have before the curb or the automobile. So Tesla looked at how many millions of miles driven on auto drive before an accident occurs since 2020. And they compared to that the Tesla using autopilot, Tesla not using autopilot, and the United States average of internal combustion cars. So they drove in 2022 over 6 million miles without an accident on auto drive. That's a better, she says it's a better driver than I am. And I agree. I agree.
So does
My
Tesla-
car is a better driver than I
Does
am.
Tesla send you to driving school to figure all this out when you're starting out, or you're on your own?
No. Some Russian who couldn't speak a word of English delivered the car on December 27th at night in a snowstorm. Handed me the key, the card, and walked away. So,
So keep it going.
You had to learn.
Does it come with an owner's manual?
Online. It's on the screen.
So you don't have a physical book to look at?
It's on any screen or Wi-Fi or computer. Yeah, you can pull it up in the car.
When it's on self-drive, how do I?
Where's the cigarette lighter?
Yeah. It makes it sound like a jet, and it gets louder when you're under 20 miles an hour to warn pedestrians that you're backing up or driving around, so that people know you're there and driving.
There's one thing I like about walking on Slide Brook Road is, you hear the cars coming and you get out of the way because there's no place to go.
You won't hear that Tesla car.
But you won't hear the Tesla, will you?
Until he hits his horn.
But
Get out of the way.
we were coming from Madawaska the other day, and Don Ogbear was running.
Oh.
And I had it on autopilot, and he was on this side of the road running towards me. The car slowed down. Don actually waved to us. He never waved.
He never waved to anybody.
He waved at us. The car slowed way down until he got past, and then took off. Did that on its own. So a lot of cars, dogs, and kids die in hot cars. It won't happen in your Tesla. They have a dog mode, and you just touch it on the screen, puts it right on whatever temperature you want. Uses very little energy, and it puts the sign up on your screen that says "My owner will be back" and what the temperature is in the car. And I apologize, I have some extra dog videos on, pictures on this, because camp mode is really a nice thing. If you get stalled or stuck in a snowbank somewhere, over 8 hours it'll only use 10% of your battery and keep it at whatever temperature that you want. It gives you around 70 degrees. It gives you a campfire.
You feel the heat?
Feel the heat.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great sound system. And this shows the consumption rate. It's, I think, 10% in 8 hours.
Where's the storage for luggage and?
So afterwards, if you all want to come down and see it, I'll show you. We have a frunk. A question a lot of people ask me, can I look under your hood?
Yeah.
I open it up and it's storage area. It's empty. And then we have the trunk. And then under the trunk, we also have another area. And that's where I keep all my tools, my wrenches from my spare tire, my air charger, and all that. Tesla Model Y got the highest possible crash safety rating. And both the Model S and Model X got 5-star ratings. And has the lowest probability of severe injury ever seen in vehicles, auto accidents.
They don't say what happened to the other guy. That weighs half as much as you do.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're not going to. Usually they hit you. But it's amazing that the car will pull out of the way. Even if you don't see them coming, if they're coming from the side, the car will shift over because its cameras see it coming and it sees it from behind. It has a dash cam that if you honk the horn, it'll save the last 30 minutes on your dash cam.
Get out.
This was an accident. We were driving the other day, a pigeon flew up, the car slowed down, and waited until a pigeon got out of the way.
Life like that.
Does it have Amish control?
Moose control.
That's right. That's right. So we talked about pet mode, camp mode. We'll look a little more at biohazard mode, the collision avoidance, it's excellent auto drive, and Sentry mode we talked about. This is biohazard mode in Model X, and it shows how many minutes it takes for pollutants. Once you hit biohazard mode, you close the doors and activate it. Within 3 minutes, you don't have any more pollutants in your vehicle. And it'd be excellent for, going through smoke and fire.
Skunk smell?
Pardon?
Skunk smell?
Skunk smell, there you go.
You know, you talked about the dash cam and if you have somebody hits your vehicle, it records that and you know. How is that going to impact police?
They're very happy to get the videos, there's no question.
I bet they are.
Yeah.
It just,
And you can also take videos if you see an accident, you just honk your horn, it'll record it, and then you can give that to the person.
it's kind of a fascinating.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. Or if somebody comes and keys your car.
What about privacy issues?
They've addressed that.
All those recordings are going to the satellite someplace.
Yeah, so they've addressed that, and no recordings of me in my cabin or anything like that are kept or used. No. The driving is all of our driving experience and miles, especially on auto drive, are recorded and sent to Dojo. They're building one of the largest computers in the world, and it's reverse training the cars, and we get these updates for the car, for all of those things, for auto drive and heating and efficiencies. That's the Dojo. We talked about service centers, mobile service, over-the-air updates, and the car is retain their value. And then Ben asked the question in his lecture last time, and Tyson, what was his name? Neil.
Neil
deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. Why isn't Musk trying to save the Earth rather than wasting money going to Mars? Yeah. Well, so the Tesla engineers have come up with a plan to save the Earth. Yeah. It's called the Master Plan Part 3. It'd be really interesting for those of you who want to look at that. It's an in-depth analysis of fossil fuel generated energies, industrial, how many petawatts it's going to take, what the conversion is going to look like, what it's going to cost in trillions of dollars for the world, how much surface area it would take for solar and wind and all those things. Really, it's a long document. It's very, very detailed. It's really interesting. And they're building the megapacks at a new plant in Nevada. And they actually used some of those during the power outage a couple years ago when people were dying in Texas with the cold weather and storm that they had. And a lot of companies are buying the megapacks in Australia and other remote areas, using them. And they're going to use them to stabilize power by gaining power to the solar, and then at nighttime, when they don't have those energies, they have their electrical power in the megapacks.
Is this an actual photograph or is this a plan?
Actual photograph.
So that exists?
That exists.
It's not just in the planning.
And what we're seeing back there are probably panels.
Those are solar panels, yeah.
Well, if your car stays outside, up here in this weather, how does that affect an EV?
It doesn't affect it.
It doesn't at all.
And we can also conserve energy if I navigate, let's say if I'm navigating to Bangor, I just push the button and say navigate to Bangor or wherever I'm going.
Oh, yeah.
And then what it does is about 15 miles before I get to Medway, it starts preconditioning the battery, getting it to the right temperature, either cooling it or warming it, depending on what the environment is, so that it can take the fastest charge. The most we've ever had to spend is 25 minutes at a supercharger. Our first time at Medway, Rosemary, tell them what the lady said that we met at the supercharger.
Well, we didn't have the car yet. We thought, well, this is the one in Med, this is the charger in Medway, we should go check it out. So we drove out to the parking lot, saw the charger, there was a blue Tesla there. And this blonde lady is,
Speak up.
no, this blonde lady is charging her Tesla. And very vivacious, outgoing, talkative. And how do you like your Tesla? Was the question we asked. And she said, the most fun you can have in a car with your clothes on.
Her Tesla was a 2016 vehicle, and the only maintenance they ever had was tires and windshield washer fluid. And they drove it to Las Vegas and back, and Florida and back, and
She worked in sales, so they were doing a lot of,
there's hundreds of thousands of miles on it.
You forgot to tell them about the camp mode in the car, that's the camp,
I did.
the mattress.
The mattress?
With the mattress.
Oh, you tell them.
No, wait, we don't want to get personal. This is family stuff here.
This is family stuff.
No, it's just, you can actually camp out in the car, you can buy a mattress that fits it and it's full length. So if you want to go camping,
And I'm sure there's a lot of things. I find the car very pleasurable to drive. I feel so much safer in it, and there's a lot of fun things. It has fart mode. So
And the what?
a fart mode.
That's what I thought you said. Not park.
So people can sit in the car, and then if a new person in the car, you put on fart mode, and when they sit down, the car farts at them.
I don't need that option.
Juvenile humor.
Louise, you gotta do
The other night, it actually synced with my schedule on my phone. So I was going to the outdoor center the other night. I got in the car. I didn't say anything. It's, 5:45. It automatically brings up Paradise Circle and takes me there. I went, okay. It knew where I was going because of my schedule. Yes?
If it is involved in a fire and the batteries get damaged, is there techniques of putting lithium fires out that with the heavy metal is?
I wouldn't be able to do that myself. You'd have to have a fire department.
Yeah, but I mean, usually, heavy metals have to be treated, and I'm not sure where fire departments are as having the.
They are, I think they're now requiring that for part of their training. Yep.
I think I'd back it out of the garage, you can, and let it burn.
That's right. Yep.
Because after it's total, you can't fix it anyway.
That's right.
If you can't get out of the garage,
You're in trouble.
you're in trouble.
I'm the one that would be involved in an accident in the field, and
Yeah.
I'd let it
They just
burn.
haven't had that many fires in Teslas.
Well, they've had lithium batteries explode. I think that's people's mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Them things you stand
Right.
on.
Right.
Cell phones.
So if a person wanted to buy one of them, where's the closest place to buy one?
The Tesla?
Yeah.
You go right on your computer and order it.
Not tonight.
That's what you do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there's not a place in town you can go, not in town, but like in Bangor.
And if you went there they would show you to the computer, like that's what they did with us in San Francisco. They said, go over, sit down at the computer, order your car.
Is there any truth to, I heard this in town, I know you always hear things, but that Buick won't be bringing cars to Fort Kent because they've told the dealer he has to build a place for electric cars? Is there any
I
truth?
don't know. I haven't heard that.
The guys that like to buy Buick, but can't get a Buick anymore. And the garage is saying they're not gonna build it's a lot of money, I guess, to build something for electric cars.
I know 6 years ago I was telling her I'd like to buy a Buick, but I don't want to buy a Buick.
What about test driving? You can't,
You can go to a showroom and test drive.
with the showroom,
Quebec.
send you.
Portland, Quebec.
So there is
So
some
they do
important
have-
you can buy.
They do have,
Oh, yes.
okay.
And they'll deliver it to you.
Oh, they'll deliver it to you. But when the Cybertruck comes, I'm not gonna let them deliver it.
Your what?
The Cybertruck comes, I'm not gonna let them.
You gonna go get it?
I ordered it 3 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is there a reboot shut switch on it?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's something we didn't know. So, she was having an issue with one of the windows, or door, what was it you were having an issue with? Was it the window?
Yeah, it was slightly open.
Yeah. So, you can reboot it. It only takes a few minutes, reboots the whole car, solve the issue.
You talked about the satellite connection. Is this a subscription? So it comes with the...
You can get a subscription so that you can stream live videos and music and everything else that you want, but for $11 a
Never leave
month.
the car.
But more importantly, the functionality, the recording, that's
It's
part of
all
the deal.
constant with the satellites, that Starlink has. Yeah.
What's your password?
What's
Your password?
Oh. For what? For the car? We call it Snowball. Yeah,
Snowballs, chips, and help.
she named it Snowball. Yeah.
Now, there are spots along the road to Madawaska even where the mountain is up on your right as you're heading towards Madawaska.
Yeah, try
There's no satellite there,
I get satellite.
Okay,
Doesn't stop. I use auto drive all the way to Madawaska.
okay.
Yeah.
With the system, the satellite system that's out there.
Yeah, Starlink is.
I saw the array.
That's
a few
thousands
months
Well,
ago.
I have Starlink in my car, and I
Oh,
have
do you?
Sirius,
Is it Starlink?
that's what it said. It's a
Serious.
subscription.
It's
Serious
serious.
XM.
But
Sirius
separate
XM, yeah.
from that, have Sirius radio, and the radio
You
cuts out.
lose it, you lose it about Friendville.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not
Just like the
Starlink.
phone.
That's my super.
But that's not Starlink.
No, that's probably not.
The outdoor center has Starlink now.
What's that?
The outdoor center has Starlink.
Really?
Yes. Because we were having trouble with video and streaming
Yeah.
and content use.
You
We're
have
hoping
Wi-Fi
with.
there too?
Pardon?
You have Wi-Fi there too?
Yes.
No.
And it's fast.
We charge.
No.
So why does the town office charge? Is it they consider?
They say that it costs money.
It costs the town
The
money?
new town manager.
Yeah. They put locks on it.
You're
No, but
thinking
that-
grant monies though?
Yeah, the town didn't pay for
Grant
that.
monies for.
Probably.
They
They
did.
install it,
I know they did.
But
That was all paid for by the federal government.
That's why I went to the police station and asked. I said, how come it's locked? Oh, you have to pay. Okay. That's crazy.
Do they have a meter on it so they know how much electricity?
I didn't ask.
Or is it a flat fee?
I must be. Or maybe they charge by the hour. Well, thank you everybody for coming out and listening to some good fun.
Thank you.
If any of you want to come down and look at the electric vehicle,
Gee,
it's right here in the parking lot.
Just
Yeah,
don't,
that'd be great.
yeah.
did you bring it inside?
What if it finds you by the door?
It's like my dad, when my dad was a logger. and cut trees, and we were up in the woods. And we had one of those big logging horses. It was a paint, so we called him Paint. Brought him in the cabin. Just barely got in. Just to show me he could bring it in.
Paul, thank you so much for the class. It was incredible. It was really and for everybody else, we only have one more class this semester. It's a night for celebrating. It's all music. It's on December 8th at the Senior Center. And there's over 50 people already signed up for it. So if you haven't, come and join us and we'll enjoy our last semester here.